If you could have a drink with anyone in the theater world, who would it be? I'm Anthony Caporale, and I'm running through my list. Each week, I'll sit down with cast members, bartenders, and personalities from New York's theater district and get a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to live, work, and play on Broadway. Come have a drink with us on Broadway Bartender. Welcome to Broadway Bartender. My name is Anthony Caporale. We are here at New World Stages in the heart of the theater district in Times Square, home of my show, The Imbible, A Spirited History of Drinking. And this week we are making drinks using cranberry juice. So I'm going to start off with a drink that I actually created. And this is, I chose this drink in honor of my special guest, but it is a cranberry drink that uses bourbon, and it's actually based on a pretty familiar recipe to folks who've been drinking bourbon for a while. It's bourbon and amaretto, and then I sweeten it up and lighten it up with a little bit of cranberry juice. So the first thing I'm going to do, as usual, is fill up my mixing tin with ice, and I'm going to start with 2 ounces of bourbon per drink. And so I'm making 2, so that would be 4 ounces of bourbon. And I want about a ½ ounce of amaretto per drink, so I'm gonna go ahead and put 1 full ounce in my tin, and I hate these pour spouts, there we go. And then just about another ½ ounce of cranberry juice, so I'm doing 1 ounce. And then I want a little bit of acidity to cut this, so some fresh lime juice goes right in there. And for those of you paying attention who are familiar with cocktails, you might start to see some similarities between this and another really popular drink that I'm going to be making at the end of the episode. So I'm going to go ahead and shake this up really well. And when we shake as bartenders, we're mixing the ingredients, but more importantly, we're chilling and diluting the ingredients. We're going to go ahead and shake this. What we're looking for is frost to form on the tin, and then I know the drink is at the right temperature. So that's just about perfect. And we'll go ahead and strain this into 2 martini glasses. And I want to garnish this with some fresh orange peel, which I have right here. And I call this the Samuels. I actually created this drink for Maker's Mark in honor of the president at the time, Bill Samuels Jr. And the reason that I chose this drink is because, or the reason I chose cranberry is again for the color, because our special guest this week is Rod.
Hello.
From Avenue Q.
Wow.
How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great. How are you?
I'm well. So the reason I chose cranberry juice, I understand that you're a Republican. And
yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we welcome all political stripes here at Broadway Bartender.
Well,
so I wanted to make you something with a red ingredient in it.
So thoughtful. And I would like to point out, I am a Republican, but I am not an idiot.
Wow. Okay, that's fair, and I will try and respect that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I imagine election night was a pretty good night for you. You were having a good time.
Well, yeah, a little turbulent.
Really?
And as a gay Republican, you know, I was a bit conflicted.
Well, I'm sorry. What was that?
A gay Republican.
Okay, so intelligent and also gay and a Republican. Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Right. No, I understand that. Absolutely. Okay. So tell me, does that come into your role in Avenue Q?
Well, a little bit. You know, during the show, I kind of come into myself, if you will. I, you know, come out with a secret. Mm-hmm.
And that secret is, can you tell us, or do we have to go see the show?
Well, no, it's out. I'm gay, Anthony.
Got it.
That's
right.
what it is.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I've had a couple drinks.
Yeah, yes.
So, actually, I'm a huge fan of Avenue Q.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I've been a fan of you since you've been on Broadway. I understand that you guys recently celebrated a milestone for the show.
Yes, very exciting. We celebrated 13 years in New York City.
Really?
Yes, very exciting.
What did you do to celebrate that?
Well, at 13, you know, one becomes a man. So we had a bar mitzvah. Mm-hmm.
It's funny you should mention that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I attended that.
Yes, we had these yarmulkes made for the entire audience, and we had kosher juice boxes after the show.
Really?
It was a very nice reception.
And that was right here at New World Stages. Again, you're playing in the same theater that
That's
the
right, in
Bible
this
is.
beautiful space.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, tell me about what the show has, what it's been like being with the show for that long. I mean, 13 years, that's a huge run, right?
Well, yes, it's kind of incredible that the little dirty puppet show from off-Broadway should last, 13 years.
How did it start?
Well, it started at the Vineyard Theater, actually, off-Broadway, and then it was such a big hit that they transferred to Broadway, where it won the Triple Crown for at the Tony Awards, beating a little show called Wicked.
Really?
Yes, and
you
it won
beat
best
Wicked.
Beat Wicked for best musical, best book, best score. Yes, it was a huge upset for everyone else.
So one of the things that I love about the show is I think you were one of the first shows to have a tremendously successful Broadway run, take a little break, and then
Right.
come back for an arguably even more successful run off
Yeah,
Broadway.
we've passed the number of performances that were done on Broadway, off Broadway. We just celebrated 3,000 performances here at New World Stages.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
So now your show is very topical, and I know, when I first saw the show, very soon after it came out, it was extremely relevant, and I think it set the dialogue for a generation. You were one of the first people to openly talk about the fact that the internet is for porn,
Right.
for
Yes.
example, which I don't think is that groundbreaking an idea anymore. But how have you kept the show? How have you kept the show relevant? Do you find that the audiences still relate to the show? Is it still topical?
Sure. Well, it's funny you should ask because we sort of feel like now the show is even more relevant than ever before. We talk about racism, we talk about the internet being for porn,
Right,
and
sure.
there's a lyric about, originally it was George Bush is only for now, but we've of course kept current, and Donald Trump is only for now.
From your lips to Yahweh's ears, my
Yes,
friend.
indeed.
So let me ask you now, if is it a little bit concerning, do you think, that topics that were, I thought, settled issues 13 years ago and were kind of looked at as like, yeah, we're over that, we've learned those lessons, are now more relevant than ever and are back again as, hot topics of conversation?
Sure. Well, it's not the best news, I guess, but luckily, as artists telling a story, we can do our part to sort of educate the world about these things. Yeah.
Now, you were also one of the first shows that that featured puppets. Now, I'm sure that was a wonderful opportunity for yourself because I don't think there was a lot of work. You probably weren't working very much.
Well, it's true. It's nice to have some visibility for us fabricated Americans.
Oh, is that the politically correct term?
Well, that's what I like to say, It's it's the more PC term.
Okay, good. But we want to make sure that we're staying
But
PC.
we're friends, so
Yeah.
you can call me a puppet if you
Okay, great. I'll try and remember fabricated American.
Yeah, there
though.
you go.
Okay, so how, being one of the first fabricated Americans on Broadway, I know that
First gay Republican fabricated Americans.
Wow, you're just breaking all kinds of molds.
Yeah, that's right.
Here, Rod. So I know since then, though, that's opened the doors for many other shows that have incorporated. I mean, heck, I did a show a little while ago that had a hand puppet in it for 5 minutes, and it was
really?
completely an homage to Avenue Q.
Yeah, wow, that's very sweet. Well, what's interesting is puppetry has really been something that's been intended for adults for centuries.
Right.
But Avenue Q and other shows on Broadway, something like Hand to God,
Right, which I saw.
have helped bring puppets back to the front for adult audiences, which is very exciting.
Do you think you have an advantage being a fabricated American, that you're able to say things that maybe organic Americans wouldn't be able to say?
Absolutely, and I think that's a lot of why Avenue Q is so successful, because we can say the things that maybe you're thinking but are a little too scared to say.
And so you can deal with subjects that might otherwise not be appropriate or easily digested by a general audience.
Sure, much like other shows with puppets for children on television that may or may not bear a resemblance to our show do. It's puppets are a great tool to say something.
Right, and I think that's obviously extremely important in the arts. There was just an incident at Hamilton dealing with the ability of artists to speak freely on stage and whether
Sure.
it is a safe space. And these are really, really important questions. And I think you guys have absolutely been trailblazers in that.
Well, that's a testament to our brilliant writers.
I have to say the show is absolutely brilliantly written, and if any of our viewers haven't seen Avenue Q, and America being a huge country and the world being huge, I'm sure that's still a good number of people. Please, if you come to New York, it's on the must-see list. The show is, as I said, just broke so much ground and paved the way for so many other shows and dialogue and discussions. So I want to know a little bit about the heritage of you as a fabricated American. Obviously, Avenue Q didn't just pop up on its own in a vacuum. From what I understand, there's a lineage behind some of the characters, or at least the puppets in Avenue Q.
Well, sure. Like I sort of mentioned before, we have some sort of resemblance to characters you might recognize from your own childhood.
Right.
And that still are appearing on TV today. But my father, I guess, Rick Lyon, who designed all the puppets in the show, did a really great job creating a look that was unique to Avenue Q, but still sort of homaging characters that you might recognize.
And that was really important to me the first time I saw Avenue Q, because there was an air of familiarity to it. And I think I was very receptive to listening to folks talk about difficult issues, and using it as a way to gain information, because quite frankly, that's what I grew up on.
Yeah, well, it tugs at your heartstrings a little bit, doesn't it?
Very much.
Yeah.
There was an element of nostalgia to the show, even though it was clearly repackaged in a very smart, very adult way.
Sure.
Which I think is really one of the most magical things about the show.
Yeah.
So I would like to now make a drink that I believe we serve here at New World Stages.
Okay.
That is named after you.
Oh, I think I know the one you're talking about.
Which one is that, to make
Is
sure
it the Rodmopolitan?
It is the Rodmopolitan.
Yes,
And by
yes.
the way, congratulations, because I know it takes a certain level of success to have a drink named after you in the
thank
theater
you.
district. And so kudos on that.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to go ahead and make that. I'm sure you're familiar with it. But this, again, most people are very familiar with the ingredients, and I'm going to go ahead and serve it in a cocktail glass, just as I did, or the martini glass, as most people know it as. And I'm going to start with ice in my tin, but this time I'm going to use vodka.
Oh.
And I like to actually, I don't know if this is an according to Hoyle Rodmopolitan, but I'm going to use citrus vodka, because I think that makes a really nice addition.
With a little zest.
A little zest, as it were, right?
Yes.
And then I'm going to do a little bit of triple sec, which is orange liqueur, and I've done about 2 ounces of vodka and about a ½ ounce of triple sec. And then, of course, I need my cranberry juice. And again,
Republican Red.
Republican Red, about a ½ ounce of cranberry juice.
Excellent.
And just like in the Samuels, some lime. And that sour cuts the sweetness of the cranberry.
Lovely.
And I'm going to go ahead and shake this up really well. Same as we did with the Samuels, again, chilling and diluting the drink. Now, you can actually get this drink when you come see the show, right?
That's right, yes. We have a fully stocked bar, and I would encourage you to, have a cocktail or two while you watch the show.
Now, are you the only character that has a drink named after him?
I think there are drinks named after almost all the main characters in the show, which is nice. I think my personal favorite, other than the Rodmopolitan, would be the Dark and Horny.
I'm sorry?
Dark and Horny.
Dark and Horny.
Yes. Named for our friend Trekkie Monster, our porn-loving neighbor Trekkie Monster.
I think I need to try some of these drinks.
Yes, come by anytime you want.
And then I'm going to go ahead and garnish it with an orange peel, as I did before, and you can see the similarities between these two drinks.
Lovely.
And that is our imbibal twist on a Rodmopolitan. I'm going to get you a straw.
Thank you.
So you can try that. See what you think?
Very good.
I think it is.
Yes. I feel like Carrie Bradshaw.
Excellent. Yes. Classic. So, Rod, I understand that you brought a friend along, also from the show, Ben Durocher.
That's right.
Can you go get him? I'd love to talk to him for a little bit.
Let me go see if I can find him.
Great, thank you. Ben, how are you, my friend?
I'm great. I'm great.
Thank you for being on Broadway Bartender.
Hey,
folks,
thanks
this
for
is
having
Ben
me.
Durocher. He is a puppeteer in Avenue Q. Congratulations, my friend. That's a good gig.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great time. It's a fantastic show.
So, first of all, how did you get into puppeteering?
Well, it was a sort of a hobby I had as a kid. I was about 7 or 8 and was really obsessed with Jim Henson and the Muppets and Sesame Street. And long story short, I met a puppeteer in my town, in my hometown, Ottawa, Ontario, in Canada. And from there, it just sort of snowballed from a hobby into a career.
Wow, and so how long have you been puppeteering?
I mean, I guess going on 20 years, you know, from you know, it being a hobby through to now being my full-time gig.
Dude, that's amazing, because, you know, I would think that full-time puppeteering gigs are kind of thin on the ground.
Sure, yeah, we're a rare breed of full-time puppeteer. But, you know, it's something I love so much, so I count myself very lucky that I get to do it.
I don't know that I knew, and now you and I have actually worked together before.
Right, yes.
It was maybe 5 years ago or something like that on a play development project we were working on.
Right.
I don't know that I knew you were a puppeteer, man.
Yes, man of many talents.
That's amazing. So how did you end up getting the Avenue Q gig?
Actually, I worked with a guy named John Tartaglia, who was the original Princeton and Rod on Broadway, and he had a blacklight puppet show that toured around the country called Imagination. I did that for a couple years, and then one thing kind of led to another, and I was asked to come and join the company here at New World Stages.
Wow, dude, congratulations. You can try that. I don't think Rod
I don't think I'll need the straw.
So, cheers, that's amazing.
Cheers, thank you.
So, you said something that intrigues me. You said you play, what's the right word? Puppet, animate?
Puppeteer.
Puppeteer?
Yes.
2 characters.
That's right, yeah. I play Rod, who
Yeah.
you met, and Princeton, who's kind of the fresh out of college ingenue character who's looking for his purpose through the show. That's kind of his storyline is about finding his purpose in life.
Now, and there's no small characters in Avenue Q. I mean, it's very much an ensemble
it's
piece.
a very small cast, yeah. And what's fun about the puppetry element is that it allows one actor to play multiple characters. So the actress who plays Kate Monster, who's kind of the female love interest to Princeton, also plays Kate's nemesis, Lucy the Slut.
Right.
And then there's an actor who plays Trekkie Monster, as well as Nikki, Rod's roommate, and the Bad Idea Bear, who I feel like you'd get along with. They're always encouraging lots of drinking.
Yes. I think I might have gone to college with him or his brother. So just to be clear for our viewers now, when you say you play 2 characters, doesn't mean that you're playing one then understudying one. You're playing 2 in the same performance.
Within the same performance, yeah, I play both characters, and sometimes there's some logistics that happen with the help of other puppeteers to allow those characters to be on stage at the same time. But the performer who's playing Princeton and Rod is always doing the voice for both characters.
And you guys are fully visible during the show, right? The puppeteers are fully visible.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that came from early on in the development of Avenue Q, they were pitching the show as a TV series, as a concept for a TV show. And in these pitch meetings, they didn't have, of course, like all the fancy scenic elements that you would hide the puppeteers behind. And the producers were responding to the puppeteer being visible with the puppet. It was something they really found interesting and different. So when the show was then developed for the stage, the concept of having the puppeteers visible was carried through. And I think it's something that makes the show really unique and is also a really great way for the audience to see a more full performance from the puppeteer, because you're able to get information from me, Ben, the human on stage, but also from the puppet that I'm carrying around.
Wow, well put, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
And it's becoming like a style of puppetry now. I remember Rod and I were talking about Hand of God. That's the same technique that they use there. And I remember actually that now that you say that, reading both characters, reading the puppeteer and the puppet, and it made a much richer experience.
Yeah, a lot of times people will see the show and say to me, wow, it's amazing you were able to do everything with your body the same as the puppet. But what sort of I like to giggle about secretly is that the puppet doesn't really do much more than open and close its mouth. You know, so I think the audience really projects a lot of the emotion that you read from the human's face onto the puppet character, which really helps tell the story in a more full full-fledged way.
So you have to be completely aware of your entire body, unlike some of the Henson presentations, those kinds of things. You're fully aware of like what your toe is doing when you're on stage. Right?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. There's also a lot of muscle memory that plays into it because as the puppeteer, you're not really watching the puppet while you're performing. Whereas, you know, if I were working on Sesame Street or on camera, I would use a monitor to help me see what the puppet is doing. But on stage in Avenue Q, we don't have that luxury. So you really practice a lot in the mirror to make sure you know what your arm is doing in relation to your own body without looking at it. It's all, you know, in your muscles.
Wow, that fascinates. I can't imagine what it's like, especially learning two roles, where you not only have to learn lines and make the voices different, but you have completely different puppet, I guess, mannerisms, right? I mean, they have different personalities that you have to...
I came in with a bit of an advantage. I was a huge fan of Avenue Q since I was like a teenager. My parents brought me to New York to see Avenue Q when I was 14. And I remember sitting in the audience and being like, those people have the best job in the whole world. So from there, I was just like obsessed with all aspects of the show. And coming into it and through the rehearsal process, I think that helped me a lot, just having an understanding of how the show worked and who these characters were.
Dude, just tremendous work. I just can't tell you how impressed I am, not only with the show, but with the work that goes into putting it on, because as someone who's on stage myself, I can't imagine adding that second layer. It's unbelievable to me. And it's so effective. And as I was talking to Rod about, I think it does allow you to discuss some really difficult things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to talk about quite as candidly.
Sure, completely. I remember when I saw the show when I was 14, 13 years ago, the moment when Rod comes out at the end, hearing an entire audience of people applaud for this puppet on stage for coming out was just like so moving and so beautiful. And I still feel that when we do the show now. It's amazing how a puppet can really convey profound emotions.
Was that the first time you got to experience that at that level of sort of size of audience and emotional response as a puppeteer?
Sure, yeah, I think so. Especially being on stage with a puppet. I've done other shows where the puppeteers aren't visible, but I guess being on stage with the puppet has like, you're more closely connected to the audience and you can actually see them responding.
Dude, congratulations again, man. It's a hell of a gig, especially for someone who is a professional puppeteer. Cheers, folks.
Cheers.
If you haven't seen Avenue Q, New World Stages right here in this theater next time you're in New York City, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Thank you so much for tuning in. Drink well, drink responsibly. Check us out next week at BroadwayBartender.com.
Cheers.
And there we have a Rod Napolitan with a little imbible twist on it.
Have you got a straw?
Oh, sure.
Delicious.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.